You're asking me from my perspective on how I can internalize my point of reference for equality issues with some of the, what from my, again, my terms of reference would be gross inequalities that I see in some of the work that I do. And I have to tell you that I think that that is sometimes it's incredibly difficult to do that, and that I have to look at it from the perspective of not importing my value system on other people, but being responsive to what they're saying. And it's you can only do it incrementally, and you do it in little steps. So when you see that, you know, that girls are beasts of burden and they don't go to school, you know, the way I put this in perspective is say, am I going to turn them into, you know, into me or something like that? I don't want to do that. What I do want to do is give them a little bit more choice than what they've got. And so you look at, you know, deconstructing what is the cause of the underlying inequality, and you take little steps to try to address that. And so examples of that would be girls don't go to school in Africa because they menstruate, and they have no access to sanitary pads. They stay in mud huts when they have their period. So some of the projects that we've developed have been to produce reusable sanitary pads so that you can eliminate one of the systemic barriers to girls getting better education or being able to compete with boys. Girls are often the ones in the families that have to go search for firewood. Well, are there ways that you can help them, you know, reduce that barrier, create fuel-efficient ovens? So that's one of the projects that we've done. Girls won't go to school if, at a certain point, if there isn't a facility for them to use for the bathroom. And so you put latrines in schools. When you build a school, you put in a latrine. Where you can, you put a well in a community so that girls don't spend, you know, 5 of their daylight hours carrying 70 pounds of water to their home. So you put in clean water, and it means that they're liberated to do some of the things that will give them more opportunity. I think you have to be careful about saying, you know, I'm going to go in and change the culture, because you're not going to do that. What you're going to do is be able to just try to eliminate some of what I call like the systemic barriers to girls, and try to make their life a little bit easier, to give them more opportunity than they might otherwise have, in a way that's not intrusive culturally for them. I do recognize that I can't go in there and say and be judgmental about them, that you have to be very, very careful when you go and do any kind of development work, that you're not going in and imposing your value system on other people, that you need to be respectful of where they are and try to ask them what they need in order to get better. You can put some conditions around how you help people to say, you know, if you are just going to create a school system that favors boys, we might not see it appropriate to fund that or to help you with that, and ask them, what about being more inclusive of girls?